What's happening on our college campuses as more and more people are being accused of things they did not commit. We seem to be doing more, at least the colleges seem to be doing more to protect those who are making the allegations without any proof or anything else. And it's creating quite a kangaroo court on pretty much every campus that exists. And like I said, the author of the piece, Lindsay Marchello, is a Young Voices contributor and an associate editor with the Carolina Journal, which I talk about frequently here. It's a great news outlet, and her newest piece is at The Federalist, and she is joining us right now here on the show. And Lindsay, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Lindsay, like I said, this has been a big issue that is, a lot of people have talked about the sort of ridiculous sort of nature of these kangaroo courts that exist on our college campuses. And so what's happened, and you write about this in your piece, is that the Department of Education has changed the rules and sort of enhanced the standard for the burden of proof. And it has not made it beyond a reasonable doubt, as our current criminal system is based off of, but has made it, there's another threshold now that is required. And the ACLU is actually fighting against this, correct?
Correct, yes. They have come out against these new rules for several reasons, one of which is for raising the standard of evidence that's required. The new standard is at least 75% certain. That's the clear and convincing standard. And the ACLU, they want them to go back to what they had before, which was the preponderance of evidence standard, which was about 51% certainty to find someone guilty of what they were allegedly did.
And what's amazing to me is, we use the numbers here, 51%, 75%. But, I mean, what's kind of interesting about it is that, when it comes to these cases, it's a he said, she said. So, I mean, the 51% is basically, you go, okay, I guess her story is somewhat plausible. So therefore, the guy gets kicked out of school and his life basically gets ruined. But in a lot of these cases, there's really no evidence. And so I think even the 51% number, I think, is somewhat misleading, because in some cases, it's really just, okay, we believe this person. Right.
And the ACLU, they said that this higher standard of evidence would unfairly favor the accused, which is really no reason not to raise the standard. You should raise the standard for serious accusations require serious proof. But these new rules also open the door for other ways to address these issues. It's not just a disciplinary action. You could have mediation. You could have sort of justice practices where people could talk out what happened instead of just having this sort of criminal-esque situation where you end up expelling somebody or suspending them based on just a little bit of 51% certainty.
And I think it's also important to note that what we're talking about here is, we're talking about some pretty hefty crimes. We're talking about, in some cases, rape. We're talking, this isn't like, petty larceny or, a scuffle that maybe breaks out. We're talking about someone being accused of committing a violent crime. And I think most people sort of assume this, and this is sort of the foundation of our sort of Anglo-Saxon judicial system. This idea, going back to Blackstone's ratio of it's better to set 10 men guilty, it's better to have 10 guilty men go free than to have one innocent person locked up. They've sort of flipped that on its head, and they're sort of arguing that it's better to have 10 innocent people go to prison than let one guilty person go free. And that really just goes against kind of everything America stands for.
Yeah, in any other situation, the ACLU would be livid that we would be using such a small amount of evidence to find somebody guilty. In a criminal case, they would be advocating for due process rights of the accused. They'd be advocating for presumption of innocence. But for some reason on these college campuses, they were not vocal at all about how crazy Title IX had gotten, how crazy these investigations had gotten into ruining students' lives.
And once again, we're talking with Lindsay Marchello. She has a new piece at The Federalist called ACLU's Opposition to Title IX Reform Betrays Their Claims to Defend Civil Rights. And I got to wonder if this plays a component. And you don't really get into this in the piece, but this is sort of the conclusion that I've come to, is that a lot of these cases that are very high profile, the people that are being accused The Duke lacrosse case, the UVA case, which of course turned out to be, false claims, is it was these sort of rich, well-to-do, connected, white frat guys who are the ones that were being accused, and they had the money to fight it. But the thing that worries me is that that's sort of the belief that these are the people that are being accused, and so forget them. They have money and they have connections. They can fight it. But the reality is that, and we see this in a lot of places, is that it's not just rich white guys that are being accused. It's minority men who don't have the means to fight this that are being accused. And as you point out, in any other case, the ACLU would be screaming to high heaven about minorities being oppressed by these systems. But for some reason, those cases don't get the same attention that, the white frat guy cases get.
Yeah, there was a piece in The Atlantic, I believe it was by a woman named Emily Yoff. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her last name right, but she wrote how disproportionately these cases are against minority men. And you would think the title or ACLU people would be very interested in how there's been this disproportionate amount of justice here. There was a case, I believe it was at Colorado University, Pueblo University. There was a young man, his name was Grant Neal, and he is an African-American student, and his girlfriend was white, and he was accused of sexual assault. But she said nothing ever happened. There was no assault. So the Title IX investigators went on with the case anyways and found him guilty, and he was expelled.
That's insane.
Right, yeah. I think his case, he sued, and it was settled. But it's still this whole lengthy process, and I cannot imagine what that would have done to his psyche, but I should say I don't want to make light of sexual assault cases on campuses. It is a serious thing that deserves serious attention and careful adjudication of what has happened, but due process shouldn't be disregarded in this pursuit for justice.